Well, my friends, esteemed colleagues, family, I was asked by a friend to explain a little bit my statement that atoms do not exist. Now, if anyone who is following my work for some time, especially the quantum part of it, realizes that we have two different existences. We exist in a quantum field, and then we exist into what we call our reality field. Now, what is the difference in between them? In a quantum field, we are nothing more than vibration of energy. Now, for this quantum field to become our reality, we need a computer that will take these frequencies, and according to the program that is installed in this computer, it will show some of those frequencies through our senses. This is why we materialize to begin with, because in a quantum field, emotions do not exist. So when we talk about creator, we cannot say creator is love, because love is emotion. What creator is what Hindus say. It's nirvana. It's a state of calmness. Now, what does that have to do with atoms? The most significant experiment ever done was the one called the double slit experiment. When this experiment was done, okay, you had two slits, and through them, scientists tried to push electrons or photons, bombard like through cannon, like having tennis balls, and now you are throwing them. Whatever misses the slit bounces back, but what goes through the slit is going to leave mark on a wall behind it, and you expect these marks. So as they did the experiment, and they had electron cannon and pop, 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 shooting electrons, what happened? On the wall behind, they had this pattern. Not this, but this. This pattern is pattern of wave. When wave hits obstacle, it basically goes around it and then curves and bounces into each other. Now, if you have two slits, now you have waves that are coming through one slit, curving that way, through this slit, curving this way, then curving this way, and even what comes from the outside, curving in. And you have a collage of different, you see, of different waves going one way and the other way, and they have points where they meet, and then when they hit the wall, this is what shows up. So if they were shooting through electron cannon, if they were shooting particles, how come that on the back screen there was image of wave? Makes no sense. So to check this up, they put observing mechanism, and they put the observing mechanism right here to observe what happened with these particles. Well, as soon as they put observing mechanism, there was no more waveform. Now it starts showing pattern of the two slits, which means once when you have observing mechanism, now you are getting what you are expecting. So this was very puzzling. Well, not only that, but a second double slit experiment, which was done years later, They wanted to see, well, what would happen if they put the observing mechanism not here, but right on the wall, which means the particles would have already passed the wall. So, and what happens? When they put observing mechanism here, again, they have the pattern of the slits. They don't have the wave pattern, which means that doesn't matter where you have the observer, where it is located. Once when you have the observer, you get the anticipated result. This is why the observing mechanism is not the correct word. It is the creative mechanism. It's something that actually creates particle. And it doesn't matter where in relation to the slits it is positioned, because it is the consciousness that anticipates certain result and then it shows it to you. This is basically what I say when your ego, your I am, manifests the most probable expected result. There are many people now involved in quantum mechanics, and they are trying to show how particles are being directed through those waves to go in a certain way, which is nonsense. I'm not physicist, but my brain is functioning. And my mind is clear. It can make observation, and then clear thinking shows me that when we are talking about quantum, which means quantum possibilities, this can only happen in the field of energy. Once, when it is processed to the brain and expressed through our senses, through a vision, and then through sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of taste, then we are getting more information about the creation. But once when this is done, well, now you cannot reverse it anymore, because this is something that your ego has accepted to show. When you have a wave pattern, you see all these points of waves touching each other. Those points can be connected and create sacred geometry. Now it's up to your mind to decide which is the most logical thing that should be manifested according to the information being given. Once when your mind, your ego, makes the decision and start showing it to you, well, you cannot alter it anymore. This is what comes out. This is what it makes sense to your ego. To change it, you have to go back into quantum and check different solution, which can be done, because our reality comes in pictures. It's not continuous movement. It's flashes. Like when we are making a movie. We take picture after picture after picture after picture, and then with a certain speed, when you see them, you see the movement. Same is with our reality, only the frequency of it is billion times a second. But as the creation is in its visible field, that much of the time it is also in its invisible quantum field. Only we are not aware of this. Now, what does that have to do with atom and electron? Number one, no particle exists in quantum field. So I do not agree with anybody who is talking quantum and mentions particles. They do not exist in quantum field because you lose the quantum. Once when particle is created, it's created by the brain. So already the design have been accepted by your ego and cannot be changed unless you go back into quantum and change it before it becomes particle. So now we go into atom. We are being told that atom has a certain number of electrons, protons, neutrons, and they give the atom its properties. So we know hydrogen, well, we can go with carbon, which is the most important for our life. Life is structured around it. And carbon has 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons. 666, get it? It's actually a positive number. It is what the Illuminati did out of it that is negative. So it depends on you. What this symbol, 666, symbolizes to you. Now, as such, now we have given it the properties. But as it manifests through this computer, sometimes we see it as a black mass, hard. Sometimes we see it as a clear diamond. It's still pure carbon. Sometimes the carbon black mass is actually isolator, doesn't conduct electricity, but in a form of graphene, which is particularly geometric shape, it becomes highly electroconductive with strong electromagnetic properties and converts sun into electricity. So if the properties of an atom are based on the amount of electrons, protons, and neutrons, how come that the property change depending on the structure? Another example is gold. Gold, as we know it, you are given a chunk of gold, well, it's metal, very heavy, easy to mold, yellow in color. And this is supposed to be basically a bunch of atoms of gold. But if you go into monoatomic, still the same amount of electrons, neutrons, protons, but only you separate these atoms. Now all of a sudden, this gold in mononucleic state, monoatomic state, becomes a white powder with levitation properties. Completely opposite. So how can it be that the structure of atom had not changed, only the amount of them being put together, and it changes completely properties of this element? If properties are, as chemistry is telling us, if the properties are dependent on the number of atoms, electrons, and neutrons, how come that the properties change with the structure that these elements are being given? Because the atom does not exist. You see, we have been told that we have this nucleus of atom which contains the proton and neutron, which are heavy, and this is where the mass is. And then we have this electron zooming around it. But now we have discovered that this electron is so freaking fast that it is in every position at the same time. So now we don't call it anymore zooming atom, but we call it atomic mist, which is another bullshit. The electron can only exist if brain creates it. And for us to make sense out of our reality, we understand that things are fractal. So the properties remain the same as it diminishes in size. But again, now we see that it is not so. I am being told many times that the best colloidal silver is the one that they call ionic, because the particles are way smaller than nanoparticle, which means they penetrate easier. But now we are becoming aware that properties do not depend on atomic values. They all depend on the geometric structure of a sacred geometry. And this geometric structure, we have learned now that it does not get completed until the design goes at least in nanoparticle. This is the breaking point. So every element will not have their properties until it reaches at least nano size, nanometer. So if you have a colloidal silver, and when it's in nano size, then it turns through light refraction, it turns the colloid yellowish. So now they are trying to convince me that no, this is the ionic smaller particles are much, much better. Well, it is not so, because no matter how many ions you have there, if there are no nanoparticles, this liquid is going to remain like a water, see-through, no color. And when you expose it to the sun, it is not going to change any property. Which means that the geometric structure was not completed, geometric structure of silver was not completed, and not all of the properties of silver are in it. One of them is it doesn't react to sunlight. When you allow nanoparticle to be formed, now you have all the properties of silver. And now if the yellowish liquid, nano-colloidal silver, exposed to the light, it turns dark gray, black, smudgy. Because now it has the properties. Now it has healing properties. So unless we get rid of all the old science, we can never get to the truth. Because the old science have been manipulated. So we can never advance. The properties of any element depend on their geometric structure. And what is this thing we call atom is nothing more than a vibration that is produced within conscious energy. And as it vibrates, and you put it into the field, or well, already in what are the elements being created in quantum field through formation of Vesica Piscis, and it's spreading. I've explained that we get magnetic force, the one that is pushing. We get the gravitational force, which is the one trying to hold these two waves together. And when they touch, they produce spark. And since the strongest gravity is right in the middle, it brings the light together. And as it collides, it expands toward the outside, creating electromagnetic field. So all this you already have in quantum, but you don't have a particle. You still don't have a particle. You have a light, but only in a light form. Electricity has no particle. So what we are being told, well, electrons are moving from positive. Bull. There's no movement of electrons. Electrons do not exist. It's a movement of conscious energy through the manifestation of our mind. So things are slightly different, they're drastically different from anything we have been told. What we call atom is nothing more than unit of vibration, and depend on the strength of the vibration. It is going to have its electromagnetic field, which can be, the stronger is the vibration, the bigger is going to be the electromagnetic field around it, which we call the electron field. So, unless brain is put in to create the particles so we can understand things, somehow, particle doesn't exist. And if we peel away from the particle, if we understand it's just a vibrating energy depending on the quantum field of possibilities, then your ego can just choose a different possibility and manifest it as long as it can believe in it. Because you only manifest what is expected. Because it makes sense to your ego. Brain can produce anything. It is on your ego what it accepts to then show as reality. Well, I hope that this is easy to understand. Remember, whenever you look in your real conscious world, everything what you experience is based on vibration of conscious energy and your ego's acceptance of it. So your reality is going to be anything that your ego accepts. Your brain can create it. And we are going now towards this understanding. Our problem is still that we have these old programs and they don't allow us to manifest instantly, which is good, because with all the garbage that we have collected and created, it would be very dangerous for us to have this power of instant manifestation, because we will kill each other very quickly. So it will take a little time. We have to cleanse. Now we are in this process of cleansing. We have to completely clean our genetic code, because genetic code is code of our creative experiences of the creation from beginning until now, or later on. Because many times we are being told that creation happens in instant. And then we go and we relive it in timely manner. We create the time. The longer it takes us to absorb it, the more time we require. And this is why I was ready 5 years ago to switch. And to me, it was always, okay, well, people will wake up next spring, fall, and it never happened. So now worse and worse situation is being created to wake up people. And nothing will wake you up than loss of your loved one. But some people, even with this, they don't wake up. My wife spoke here to some people that have been double jabbed, aborted the baby, and when asked if she's going to accept the third jab, she was like, I don't know. I don't know. Well, some people just cannot be helped. They are so confused, they are so captured in this artificial reality that they are incapable to pull away. Things are changing. Hold the light. Don't give in. Soon we'll be out of this. If you don't understand something from what I just said, you want me to elaborate on something more, let me know. Thank you. Love you all.